Hello, welcome back to ImpactEd, episode 5.
Today we're building on the work that we looked at in episode 2. You'll recall that we looked at the importance of a school vision. We've had a lot of requests to release a structured process to create a window of certainty styled school vision. So in this episode we're going to take you through a staff meeting process that will lead you to the result that we're looking for.
So very much a how-to video today, Steve.
Yes.
Righto.
We're asking all principals, if you're using this, to make sure you purchase the book. It's an absolutely outstanding resource. It'll take you into a much deeper dive into what sits behind each aspect. Like everything we do, we've customised the process to suit what we believe works really well. You'll remember that there are 4 major components, the first being the school vision and purpose statement. The vision sets out where you're going to. It's the aspirational statement, followed by the beliefs. The beliefs are what must exist in your school to realise the vision. The values highlights those things that your school and broader community places value on. And finally, your outcomes pane, which is the real level of school improvement that you're going to deliver by living your window of certainty.
Steve, if I take us back to episode 2, you gave us some very good definitions and in particularly differentiating between a vision and a purpose statement. A vision, of course, being an aspirational intent with an element of stretch to it, I think is how you characterise it, whereas purpose is more of an ethical or moral imperative.
Yeah. So vision is where to, and the purpose is why and what.
Okay. So where to today?
Okay, so in the accompanying resources, we've asked principals to print out a sheet for each staff member. We're going to start off looking at the strengths of the school, and on the strengths sheet that you can see on the screen, we're asking each person to list 5 strengths of the school. Now, they can be anything that the individual values. It could be the school logo, it could be the uniform, it could be the way the school teaches spelling. It's any aspect of the school life that you as a staff member value, and we're going to give you a really short period of time. We're going to go 90 seconds on this, so we'll ask that the person who's in control of AV hits pause, and we'll see you in 90 seconds. Welcome back. You've just gone through the process of writing your 5 strengths, and now we're going to go through a section where we look at cross-pollination. So what I would ask you to do is grab your very important sheet of paper, hold it out in front of you, and screw it up tightly into a ball. Yep, you heard right, tightly into a ball. Now, in a moment, I'm going to give you a ready, set, go, and I'm going to ask you to throw your paper across the room. Target anybody who you've got your sights on. When you receive a piece of paper, pick it up and throw it, and keep throwing until we stop you in 2 minutes. Ready, set, go, and cross-pollinate.
Do you want to pause it here?
Look out. Well, see, that's... Okay, and stop. If you haven't got a piece of paper, can I ask you to hold your hand up so that you're a target for those who have more than one? If you've got more than one, throw them at the people with their hand in the air. It's really important that we get one each. So we'll just wait a moment while the last few people get one. It's amazing, James, whenever we do this exercise, the number of times that 1 or 2 pieces go missing. Often wonder who finds them much later on. Okay, by now everybody should have one, and because you're obviously much smarter and much better looking than the person who wrote it, I would ask that you unravel it, look at it, read the 5 that somebody else had placed there, and cross off the 2 that are least important, and then replace them with 2 values that you truly aspire to. 2 of the strengths of the school. You're right, I'm going there. Okay, now that you've had a chance to look at the worst 2, and we know that there'll be some people who just value other people's work so much that they literally couldn't do it, or somebody who got the sheet of paper that only had 3 things on already. But you're all staff in education, I'm sure you adapted. What we'd ask you to do now is, for the last time, screw it up, and on 3, launch them across the room. Ready, set, go. Okay, and we'll ask you to stop, go through the same process. We need one with each participant. So if you can hold your hand up if you haven't received one, target those people with their hands in the air. And now what we would ask you to do is unravel your piece of paper. We'd like you to look at the list in front of you, which should have still 5 strengths, but with 2 crossed out. We'd ask that you grab somebody within the room. Preferably it's not your best friend. Grab somebody who thinks differently to you because that'll make the conversation richer. Go over to them, have a discussion about the 2 that were crossed off and what they were replaced with and whether the person got it right or wrong. And we'll give you 2 minutes. Again, we'll ask the AV controller to press pause.
That looked like a lot of fun, but particularly pegging bits of paper at each other. But what are we really doing here, Steve? I sense, though, we're trying to distill a lot of opinions and evaluative thoughts. Have I got it right there?
You have, James. It's a higher order thinking strategy. A gentleman by the name of Eric Frangenheimer, a South African gentleman who now lives up in Queensland, came up with a series of higher order thinking strategies. Really engaging. Kids love it. Principals are the best when you see them doing it. But the most important bit was the bit at the end when we're having that critical analysis and justification on why 2 things were crossed off, what was more important. And what that was designed to do was to help everybody bring to the front of their thinking exactly what it is that they value within the current school situation.
I guess this strategy has wider applicability with perhaps other stakeholders of the school.
Yep, but even a great way to introduce a new topic for a classroom. But we might move on.
So Steve, I'm enjoying this process. So we've gone through the strengths part, we've cross-pollinated and learnt to duck really quickly. So we're up to the part you're calling headline, and what you were explaining here to me was construct a headline that you would like to see written about your school in how long was it?
5 years' time.
5 years' time. Okay, so where in 5 years' time? What will be the big news story?
Yep, front page of Newcastle Herald. All right, we'll see you shortly.
Again, very imaginative. So I've got my headline, Steve. What happens next?
Okay, so we've gone through the process of coming up with the school strengths. We've looked at cross-pollination. We've written a headline that you would like to see. We're now going to go through a process of ideation, a journey through a personal vision, through to getting a consensus. The very first step is utilising the resource that we call personal vision. We'd ask you to write a very short statement. Remember the criteria on the right-hand side, and we'll leave that on the screen. We expect this shouldn't take more than 2 minutes. Please remember this is your personal vision. It's where you would like the school to go to. So again, we'll ask pause and we'll come back in 2 minutes when you're finished. Okay, now that you've come back, what we would like you to do is sitting as close to a circle as you can. We'll ask you to pass your personal vision statement to the left, and we want you to underline the words in the vision of the person who's handed it to you that you think is important. We want you to do that for no more than 30 seconds and then stop, pass to the left again. And we'll see you in 3 minutes. Now that you've had time to write your own personal vision, you've looked at those key words that were important to you, what we would ask you to do is to come together in groups of 3 to 5. And again, the more that you can mix with people that you aren't normally your closest associates at the school, the better. We want you to come up with a group vision statement. It should be representative of everyone, but what we don't want you to do is write a vision statement that looks like War and Peace. Has to be a succinct statement about where you're going to. We've left the definition on the screen for you to look at, and we'll come back with you shortly. Hi, welcome back. We hope you enjoyed the process of going through and looking at writing a group vision. We hope that you got to a consensus and that you did the final check-in with the vision statement. Now we need to look at a process of refining. We will ask now that you have a look at that statement again, go around in your group and confirm that it meets what is the requirement as we've defined it. It's fantastic that you've been able to refine your vision. Now we're going to take you through a very important educational process called smushing. And the bigger your staff, the more smushing is required. What we're going to ask you to do is get 2 or 3 groups together, read each of the vision statements, try and pick out those key areas and smush them together to come up with a single vision statement that represents the 2 or 3 groups. Now this can be quite challenging, but please, please, please remember it must be succinct. Don't add and add and add. Ideally, your vision statement will be no more than 2 sentences, and we want every key stakeholder in your community able to remember your vision next year. Now that you've smushed, we're going to ask a team that will be determined by your school to go through a synthesizing process. And that is they will take all the smushed visions and they'll try and do a final smushing to bring it back into one vision statement. Again, and I know that we're being quite repetitive, that vision must be succinct, it must match our definition, but this part is really important. Once that group thinks they've got it right, they've got to bring it back to every single stakeholder. So at your next staff meeting, via email, whatever the process is that's determined, everybody's got to have a look at it and make sure that you buy into it. Obviously, the bigger the staff, the more difficult it is to have it representative of the exact wording from every single member. However, you should be able to see the themes there that you valued. And if you can't, then we have to go back through that process. But we're really hopeful that when you present your refined or synthesized vision, that you've got something that everybody can buy into. Just when you thought we were done, James. We know the vision was the where to, but it's also really important to have a purpose statement. The purpose statement gives us the what and the why. And particularly for those of you who are familiar with Simon Sinek's work, that why I think is quite critical. So we're going to take you through a very quick process, and we put the definition up. We're asking you to come back to your original group that you're in, and we're asking you to write a collaborative statement that reflects the why and the what. You already know what your vision will look like. You've gone through the smushing process, and we'll give you 3 minutes to come up with a collective purpose statement. Now that you've written your purpose statement, we would ask you to look at refining it and making sure that it definitely meets our definition. Depending on the size of your staff, you may also want to go through the extra step of a smushing, but otherwise we'll ask that the evaluative group take it away and they do the final synthefication. Is that a word, James?
No.
No, it's not. They'll ask that they synthesize all the proposed purpose statements and present the final purpose statement back with the vision. We hope that you've really enjoyed this process. In our next episode, we're going to guide you through the beliefs that sit underneath your vision and purpose statement.
And your synthefication.
That's all from me.
See you next time.